Hey, I'm Adam Jusko from ProudMoney.com, and in this video we're going to look at the best credit cards from Navy Federal Credit Union. But before we do that, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe to this YouTube channel if you have not already, and if you have already, I thank you for doing so. So Navy Federal Credit Union, the biggest credit union in the United States for current and former military members, as well as their families, and Department of Defense civilians as well, are all eligible for membership. Sometimes when I talk about them in other videos, people say, well, you can get an invitation from somebody who's already a member and get in that way too, but technically you're supposed to be part of the military or a military family member or Department of Defense. So that's who it is supposed to be sort of limited to. So anyway, we're going to look at the best credit cards from Navy Federal, and there are some pretty good ones here. So if you are eligible for membership and you're thinking about becoming a member, they do have some good choices. Now, the best of those cards is the Navy Federal More Rewards American Express card. No annual fee. You're going to earn rewards using the following formula: 3 points per dollar on supermarket purchases, 3 points per dollar on restaurant purchases, 3 points per dollar on gas purchases, 1 point per dollar everywhere else. As I'm making this video, there is a opportunity for a 25,000 point bonus if you spend $3,000 with the card in the first 3 months of having it. As far as the worth of those points, in most cases, each point is going to be worth a penny for cash back, for travel, and for other rewards as well. Most of the time, you're going to get a penny a point. So those 3 points per dollar you can think of as 3% cash back or 3% reward toward travel or whatever. So those are pretty good multipliers on, everyday purchases that you might make. This card has no foreign transaction fees. The interest rates are fairly low, especially compared to the rest of the market. So if you happen to carry a balance here and there, I'm sure you don't carry a balance very often, but if you happen to every so often, probably not as bad as some of the other credit cards on the market. So this, as far as we're concerned, is clearly the best of the Navy Federal credit cards. Our second ranked card from Navy Federal is its Visa Signature Flagship Rewards card. This card does have an annual fee, but it is only $49. In terms of everyday rewards, you get 3 points per dollar on travel, 2 points per dollar on everything else that you buy with the card. Now, this card does have a nice bonus opportunity of 50,000 points if you spend $4,000 in the first 90 days of having it. This is at least true as I am making this video. Navy Federal does kind of change their bonuses and sort of new cardholder offers on a fairly regular basis, so you'll want to check and make sure that that offer is still available to you. There is a credit for global entry or TSA pre-check, which would be up to about $100, and that's something that you renew every 4 years. So that's a little bit of a benefit, not a huge one. So it's really the everyday rewards and that bonus that you're probably going to be looking at to decide if this card is good for you. That $49 annual fees, not too much, but still you would want to be spending a lot on travel in order to really maximize this card. And then again, if you can spend that $4,000 up front, that $500 bonus is going to make that annual fee worth it. So if you are, kind of hitting the categories the right way in terms of what your spending is, you might actually think of this card as even being a little better than that More Rewards American Express card. And this card is a Visa, so if that matters to you as well in terms of having a Visa versus an American Express, you could also make a pretty good case for this one. So those are the two big rewards cards from Navy Federal Credit Union that really stack up well compared to other things that are out there on the credit card market. For the third ranked card, we're going to go in sort of a different direction, to a card for a different audience, but one that is really good when compared to other cards in its space. And that is the Navy Federal N Rewards Secured Credit Card. So if you are trying to establish credit for the first time or re-establish credit, if you have had some credit problems in the past, you might need to get a secured card if you can't be approved elsewhere at decent terms. So the way a secured card works is essentially the same as any other credit card, except you have to put a security deposit down in order to get it. And then you get a credit line that is equal to the amount of that security deposit. So as far as Navy Federal goes, you have to put down at least $200. You actually put that into a Navy Federal savings account, which actually does have, some paltry interest rate, but you get a little bit for it. So you're actually in a savings account there, and then they kind of use that as a backup in case you don't pay. But assuming you do pay, they're never going to touch that money. So put $200 down or more and you'll get a credit line that is equal to it. You use the card just the same as any other credit card every month. You pay it off with other money, not with that security deposit that's sitting in the savings account. And then over time, they report to the credit bureaus, and this can help you establish credit if you make those payments on time and do everything that you're supposed to do. Now, Navy Federal's card is one that we like in particular in the secured space because of the fact that it has no annual fee. It has a fairly reasonable interest rate at 18%. If you ever carry a balance, which you really shouldn't, but if you do, it's better than other secured cards on the market. No foreign transaction fees, and it has a rewards program. Modest, but there is one, and most secured cards do not. So you do get a 1% reward on the purchases that you make with this card. So when you put all those things together, that is a pretty decent secured card. And then Navy Federal also says that after 6 months, assuming you have been doing everything correct, making your payments on time and not otherwise getting yourself in trouble in those 6 months, well, then you may be upgraded to an unsecured card and no longer need to have that deposit in that savings account as sort of a backup here. So if you want to graduate to an unsecured card, you could do it in as little as 6 months. And so that's pretty quick. In the secured card market in general, usually doesn't happen that fast. So overall, really good card, and the potential promise of graduation makes it even better. Number 4 is the Navy Federal Credit Union Cash Rewards Card. No annual fee card. It gives you 1.5% cash back on everything that you buy with the card. As I'm making this video, there's a bonus opportunity of $150 if you spend $3,000 with the card in the first 3 months of having it. No foreign transaction fees. When I look at this card, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. It is somewhat comparable to many other cards on the market, but there's nothing that really makes it stand out. That 1.5% cash back you get with many other cards. That bonus is actually harder to get than you could get with other cards offering the same basic reward. So there's nothing here to make me say that this card is something that I would take any special notice of. Now, maybe if you're a member of Navy Federal Credit Union, maybe this card would be a little bit easier to be approved for if you are having trouble being approved for the Chase Freedom Unlimited or the Capital One Quicksilver or whatever. But I would say that those cards are just as good or better than this card. So this is certainly not one that I would highlight as anything particularly interesting compared to the rest of the market. Number 5, the Navy Federal Credit Union Platinum Card. No rewards on this card, no annual fee. The only real selling point here is the fact that if you are someone that does carry a balance on any regular basis, you potentially could get a very low interest rate. It could be as low as 7.49% as I'm making this video, or it could be as high as 18%. If you're on the 18% side, that's really not all that amazing compared to other cards on the market. But if you can qualify for that very lowest rate and you do have a reason to carry a balance over time, well, then that is a pretty low interest rate. But otherwise, nothing else going on with this card. So if you're interested in a rewards card, this would not be the place to look. And then finally, on the consumer side is the Navy Federal Credit Union Go Rewards Card, a no annual fee card that gives you rewards in the form of 3 points per dollar at restaurants, 2 points per dollar on gas, 1 point per dollar everywhere else. There's no bonus opportunity as I'm making this video, so it's a little hard to understand why this card exists, because if you compare it to the More Rewards American Express card that we talked about at the top of our rankings, it essentially is just worse than that card without any, redeeming quality that would, somehow make you choose it over it. So I have to assume that maybe you would be offered this Go Rewards card if you didn't qualify for one of the better cards that Navy Federal has. So maybe you'd apply for one of those, and if you got rejected, they might say, hey, you want this card instead? It's not as good, but we'll accept you for this one, because there's no good reason for you to go after this Go Rewards card when compared to the other cards that Navy Federal offers. And then Navy Federal does offer a business credit card, a business rewards card that really is not particularly competitive. Not quite sure why they even offer this card. It might be a situation again where maybe it's a little easier to get your hands on this card if you're a small business owner than some other small business cards on the market, but the rest of the market is way better than this one in terms of rewards. It's got no annual fee, but otherwise its rewards program is 1 point per dollar, and those points are essentially worth a penny a point when you redeem. So very modest, not very competitive. Not really sure why this card exists. Maybe they just don't really serve this market all that much, but they have the card there almost as a placeholder in case anyone wants it. But if you're a business owner and you're looking for a card, Navy Federal is not the place I would go. So some really nice cards at the top of the list here from Navy Federal Credit Union. Those a little further down, a little more of a clunker, but if you're someone that qualifies for membership as current or former military or Department of Defense, well, maybe if you don't have as long of a track record, Navy Federal Credit Union is probably going to be a little more accepting of you and more likely to approve you than maybe some general bank credit cards out there. So even if the terms aren't quite as good as you might hope to get elsewhere, if you're accepted, that might make them acceptable to you. So that is it for this video. Thank you for watching, and as always, please go to proudmoney.com, where we do credit card reviews, we talk personal finance, we talk deals, and all sorts of other fun stuff too. Thanks for watching. Bye.